Welcome back to another episode of the Canon on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and today, talk about WandaVision episode 6. I have no clue what's going on. No clue. Right when you think you might know something, they give you another turn. There was so much in this episode, and last episode got me feeling good. I felt like I wasn't sure what was still to come, but I felt like, okay, I could at least rule out some stuff. And that's purely by the writing. That wasn't like what they told us. It's just the flow of the writing. It seemed like certain things. And I still feel like certain things, like Wanda's not completely in control. The fact that they had Rambo just look at the camera, it's all Wanda. And the fact that when they're saying like, make her stop, instead of saying Wanda, like tell Wanda to stop because they know who she is. Certain stuff like that. Those beats, I still feel like there's something else there. Obviously, the whole Fox Quicksilver, obviously he's like a type of Quicksilver in there. Something tells me that's not Mephisto. That's not just some giant misdirect. I still feel like that's something bigger and some other stuff. But still, even with that, I am lost. There's so much. The one thing that really threw me this episode was the Agnes part. Like, I knew she was a part of the town and I knew she wasn't powerful or anything, but I still thought she was kind of in cahoots with whoever is doing this. But, you know, Vision tapped out of her mind. And she didn't say anything particular. She just wants to be saved. But also when everybody's not around, she's kind of frozen too. So if she was in cahoots with who's doing this, it doesn't make sense. But she's clearly aware of what's going on. Just like Herb is aware of what's going on. And some other people are like, yo, do you want to change anything? And so they are aware of it. But I guess that doesn't mean that they are totally playing with everything. When Wanda's not around, they're frozen. And so they're trapped in their own mind as well. So they don't have free will. So even if I still think Agnes is part of it, it seems like she's very slightly a part of it. And so now I'm just curious as to why they did the choices they did with her last episode, because it doesn't seem like she's a major person, but could be throwing us off. I mean, she had a really weird witch laugh going on, and obviously we know, and again, I mentioned this before, they don't use this episode to say, hey, these are the comic book costumes, but we know it's a nod. It's a nod to her Scarlet Witch costume, to Visions, to Quicksilver's, but then we see Agatha in a witch costume. So I have to think it's something. She's not surprised by Powers, but she's surprised by how much power Wanda has. And so is Quicksilver. Seems to be surprised too. And he seems to know too much. Like, he talked about Vision being dead. He talked about her hiding the children and stuff, even though he wasn't here prior to last episode. But the one thing I would say is, like, you don't really, well, I don't know. We don't know, but at least I don't see that you bring power, that you get powers when you come in, if that makes sense. Like, usually what comes in is just changed around, but it's still part of what it was. Like, we saw that with the Kevlar vest. It might have been changed in the pants, but it's still Kevlar. So it makes me feel like that if this is not Quicksilver something, he had to have super speed. Wanda's reality bubble doesn't just give people powers. And so that I felt the same thing with Vision. I'm like, I don't know if it's his dead body being reanimated, because, you know, like, where if you go out the bubble, he's dead. I don't think it works that way, because he's used his mind powers on people. And those people are real, and they said they're real thoughts, you know? So it wasn't like they're faking the mind powers. He's actually using his mind powers. And this Quicksilver is actually using his superpowers. Now, if we get into the territory of this reality bubble can create powers and she can give powers, then we might be talking about something more close to the comics. Then we might be talking about creating mutants potentially, even though it doesn't make sense because you erase the whole history of the X-Men. But my thing is, it just doesn't make sense because Wanda's powers, like even Quicksilver said, and again, he knew about that and he wasn't even around. He said you came a long way from giving people creepy dreams and having red squigglies come out of your fingers. And yes, her powers have grown, but it has been nothing close to this. And the thing is that the MCU, for obvious reasons, chose to go with the Infinity Stone as the source of her power and not actual mutant powers. Like with mutant powers, you can go as big as you want. You can say this mutant has the power to do this, and you can expand that just because it's, it's ambiguous. But the Infinity Stones, while powerful, are very particular. And she has powers from the Mind Stone. Like, yes, that gave Quicksilver speed or Pietro speed. But her powers have been very similar to the Mind Stone. Telekinesis, telepath, all that. She could, I wouldn't say read minds. Maybe it has seen more like feelings. But she can see into people's mind, give them visions. She can move things, all that. And so some of the stuff has been in line with her powers. But being able to create an entire reality and warp reality, that's not even close to her powers. Especially when you have the Reality Stone, where that is much more in line with what's happening here, and her powers then come from that. And so if her powers if they wrote it back in the day where her powers came from the Reality Stone or a mix of both, maybe, but it just doesn't make sense within the rules of the MCU that her powers have grown to this level. And yes, I know we seen her control it at the end, which raises questions, but it doesn't make sense to me. And it might find out that they just said F it, that's what she can do now, but it's not consistent with the reality the MCU set up. But yeah, I mean, again, a lot of stuff happened in this episode that raises questions. I will take time to shout out the early 2000s Malcolm in the Middle look, like having the kid talk to the camera. The opening was totally Malcolm in the Middle homage. And so I don't know why, but I just did not expect them to go with that. When I was wondering once we got to the 2000s what they would lean on. I just didn't expect Malcolm in the Middle, but shout out to that. And then the commercial was very late 90s, early 2000s. And I'm trying to figure out what it means. It's the first one we seen without the actors, but it was like Yo Magic. And so obviously they're talking about her magic powers. But it said the snack for survivors. And so I don't know. The whole thing was creepy. So I have not figured out any of the commercials. Like, I know the first one, I was like, that ticking sounds like it's something else. A lot of people saying the Stark missile. I was like, maybe that's a machine. Because that was when I thought it was more like an Inception type thing. And I thought it was a machine around her while she was induced. But, who knows what it means. And then the other stuff, the logos, people were saying the red is the blood. I don't know. That seems too obvious to me, but maybe. So I don't know. I don't know what these commercials are, but this is the first one without the parents. And then the whole thing about the town and people like just being frozen there. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I said early on, I haven't been one to jump on doing all these theories, except after that one episode. I believe it was the last one, but I was like, I got some thoughts, but I'm not really deeply invested into any theory right now. The only thing I really believe is that this opens up a connection to the multiverse, and potentially the Fox multiverse or the Fox universe. But other than that, I don't know, man. I mean, I can be creative sometimes, but this, I just don't know. And even 6 episodes in, they did a good job of misdirecting us. So, but just thinking about how those people outside of a certain area of town, they aren't doing anything. And, you know, they did the little tear, which is a powerful move. It's used a lot, but it's a powerful move to let you know what's going on. And so that just has to say something. I mean, this whole thing about people knowing Wanda wants it to happen, like they're all part of an act, it's just, I don't know, something else is going on. Something else is definitely going on. And then they ended like, bro, they ended right there. I'm like, you serious? That's where y'all gonna end it? I wanted more. The twins seem to have powers, and that also throws me because, again, that stuff that doesn't happen. You know, we know some of these people are regular Joes. They don't just have powers or do things like have some significant difference about them that they didn't come in with. And so, again, these twins running around, the twin had a vision of the real world and people like the soldiers in the real world. So it's like, this can't be just an illusion or whatever in this little bubble. They seem to be real. And so I thought at one point, I was like, maybe she came into the bubble pregnant. And so this was just, she was kind of hiding it, and then she manifested it when she wanted to. Some people have said that might be possible, but it seems like those kids is real. So it's just more questions. You got Darcy in there now, but I guess one of the biggest questions, like, I know in the comic books, Monica becomes a hero of some sort, and it definitely looks like they are going down that path, talking about rewriting her DNA and all that. And a lot of people pointed that out. I thought the scans being blank was just like radiation from the power that, the bubble is exerting, which technically I guess it kind of is, but it is pretty much a simple way to say she's about to get powers. I don't really care that much. I don't know that character. But the one big mystery that I'm still sitting here, like she said, her person is going to be there in an hour. She kept saying that, my guy, my person. Now, she said it's her way to get back in. There's not that many people that deal in that type of energy. It really seems like it could be Selvig, even though that doesn't make sense because Darcy knows him. So, but that's kind of low-hanging fruit. But a lot of people think it's Reed Richards and all this other stuff. I don't know, but they are definitely dangling it out there. So I'm really curious as to see who it is. I mean, it can't be anybody we know. It might be no, she said it was something about a space engineer or something. I was going to say it might be one of the Skrulls. She do know them, but, and she might know, Nick Fury, but again, she does know Nick Fury, but again, they're not the type of engineer she was describing. So a lot of people think it might be Reed Richards, and it might be, but that's one of the big mysteries. I'm wondering who that is, but yeah, a lot of good stuff. I enjoyed it. I don't have no big theories. So overall for me, that was an A, and I'm excited for next week. So go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And remember, if you heard it here, it's official canon.